In this video, we're going to be looking at the comparison operators available in JavaScript. Let us go ahead, create a new file. I'm going to call this as comparison.js. Now, the different comparison operators available in JavaScript is you have a equality check to check whether two values are equal. There is also something called as a strict equality check. So for equality, you'll use two equals. For strict equality, there's going to be three equals. And then you have your other comparison operators like is it less than or equal to, is it greater than or equal to, and you also have something like not equal to. So these are the different comparison operators that are available to us with JavaScript. Let's go ahead and see how it's going to work. One thing you have to keep in mind is when you're using the comparison operators, the value that gets returned is a Boolean true or false. And you will generally use comparison operators in a program for making decisions. It's primarily meant for making decisions inside a computer program. Now, let us see how this works. To begin with, I'll use multiple console.log statements for us to see the output on our screen directly. So let us say I have a variable 10. I have a value 10 and I'm asking if the value 10 is equal to the value 10. So I have a number data type and I have a number data type. I'm asking whether these two are equal, and it's quite obvious. It will come back and tell you that it is true. Now let us say if I have 10, is it equal to, let us say 12? Quite obvious, it's not. So it's going to return false. And let's do this. Let's say I have a number 10. I'm asking for, is it equal to a string of 10? Now you can see that here I'm using a number type. Here it's going to be a string type. The value inside the string is still a number 10 itself. But when I'm using the two equals, let us see the output and then update our code. I'll now say comparison.js. You can see that it will still come back and tell you that it is true. Because when you're using the double equal, that is basically your equality check, it'll only check whether the values are equal. It'll never go and check whether the data type is also the same. But if you're going to be using a triple equal, I'm now going to say, is the number 10 equal to a string of 10? So when I run this piece of code, it'll come back and tell me false. That means to say it is not the same. So in double equal, only the values are being compared. In triple equal, it'll check for the data type first. If the data type is true, then it'll go on to check for the value. And then if the values are true, it'll return true. In the first place, if the data type itself does not match, it is going to come back and return false. Like this, right? So what if I have another example where I'll say console.log 10, is it equal to a string of 15? Now it does not bother. It's not even bother checking for the values. Why? Because the data type itself is mismatched. Oh, I have to use three equals there. Yes. So the data type itself is mismatched. Now, what should we prefer to use in programs? It's always advisable while you're working with JavaScript to use a strict equality check. So one is equality. This is strict equality when you're using three equals. Also keep in mind, this is one of the most commonly asked interview questions. What is the difference between double equal and triple equal? How does it work in JavaScript? This is one of the most commonly asked questions in JavaScript interviews. All right. Now, apart from looking for the equality, there is also the other operators that we can use for comparison to check whether it is greater or lesser. So I can now say, is the value 20 lesser than the value 30? Of course, it's going to come back and return true. Is the value 20 less than or equal to the value 20? It'll also come back and return true. If I say, is the value 20 less than 20? Is 20 less than 20? No, it's going to return false. Let's check it out. It'll come back and tell you it is false. Right. So similar to equality, you can also, similar to less than, you can also use the greater than sign. You can now ask, is 20 greater than 30? It'll say false. Is 20 greater than or equal to 20? It'll come back and true and say true, because here you're checking, is it greater or equal? So it should be either one of it for it to be true. Is 20 greater than 20? False. No, it's not greater than 20. Is 40 greater than 30? Yes, that's going to be true. So these are basically the other comparison operators that you're going to be using in JavaScript. Again, keep in mind your comparison operators can also be called as the relational operators. As you can see, what it returns is basically a Boolean value, true or false. And this is kind of very widely used in real world applications to make decisions. Let me give you an example. Let us say there is a registration form, and in the registration form, they will ask your password to be between 8 to 128 characters. The password that you're entering has to be between 8 to 128 characters. So here there is some kind of a condition that they're going to be checking for. Is the length of the password string, is it greater than 8? Comparison usually gets combined with the next one that we're going to be looking at. That's basically called as the logical operator. And is it less than 128? Now, that is one of the scenarios where we can use our comparison operators. Other things that you would have seen on an e-commerce store. During the launch of any kind of a mobile phone, generally they will say that a particular phone, you cannot buy more than 2 units of it, or you cannot buy more than 1 unit of it. If you try to add the same product twice in the cart, or if you say that, okay, I want 5 units of this particular product, immediately they will tell you saying that no, for a customer, there's only one product reserved. Or in this order, you can only buy 1 unit of this particular product. Now, how are they deciding all these things? These are all based on using the comparison operators. Now, the amount of discount that has to be given to a user, they'll give you some statistics. They'll say that, okay, if the bill amount is 1,000, then you would want to give the user a 10% discount. If the bill amount is 5,000, then you want to give the user a 25% discount. Now, here is where your comparison operators fall into place.